Hello and welcome to the Golden Playbook. Week 2 is officially in the books. I hope it went well for you. I hope it was a successful winning fantasy week. If you don't know what's happening on today's video, we are recapping every single game that happened on Sunday and Monday. We are going to see what our fantasy football takeaways are, see what guys are going to be studs moving forward, which guys we have a little bit of concern about their roles, some buy lows, some sell highs, some droppable players, some pick-upable players. We're going to try to cover it all, and we're going to do it going game by game, looking at the box score, but it's going to be more than that. It's going to be what we saw with our eyes on Sunday. So without further ado, let's hop in straight to our first game, and we're going to go to the Seattle Seahawks Pittsburgh Steelers, a 31-17 win for the Seahawks, mostly in part to a horrible special teams play from Caleb Johnson, and that is probably sealing his fate as not being a usable guy probably for most of this season. So if you have Caleb Johnson, definitely droppable in redraft. But let's start with the Seattle Seahawks, our victors. And listen, the obvious takeaway is Kenneth Walker is not dead yet. 13 carries for 105 and a touchdown. Obviously outplayed Zach Charbonnet in this one. In the opener, Charbonnet outplayed Walker. But I think it's going to continue to be this 50-50 split. As you'll see, Charbonnet got 15 carries and only turned it into 10 yards. But regardless, I think that split is going to be there. So it's not really a comfortable start for Kenneth Walker week in and week out because you know Charbonnet is going to take that role from him. But if he keeps playing like this and keeps being this efficient, Kenneth Walker is going to have an increased role. As for the air attack, Sam Darnold looked mid at best, but continues to give JSN lots and lots of targets, so JSN is a fantastic PPR option. Looking like the absolute alpha dog on the Seattle Seahawks team, lead the teams with 10 targets. Cooper Kupp with 9 targets, had 7 for 90, and looked much better than he did in week 1, so that was very, very encouraging. Torrey Horton with a touchdown catch. I know a lot of people are having high hopes for him. Hopefully he can kind of provide that wide receiver 3 role for Seattle. So Kenneth Walker, although he's going to be a tough play, definitely startable depending on the matchup. JSN must start each week. Cooper Kupp, probably keeping him on the bench unless, you're desperate for buys or injuries. As for Pittsburgh, huge regression from their offense. And this is kind of more what we expected out of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. It's going to be slow. Not a lot of fancy points are going to be provided. Jaylen Warren does come home, leads the team, 4 catches, 86 yards, and 48 yards on the ground. Obviously the lead back. He is a kind of a safe floor RB2. Unfortunately, that floor is probably only 8 or 9 points, but you know that you're at least getting that. But I don't feel very, very comfortable starting Warren. And then in the passing game, I don't feel comfortable really starting any of them outside of DK Metcalf, and even then, I'm not feeling great about it. So this Pittsburgh Steelers team, if you have any pieces, if you have a DK Metcalf, I would try to look at selling high off of his good week 1 and touchdown scoring week 2. I just don't think this offense is going to provide for fantasy purposes. And we'll move to the LA Rams Tennessee Titans, a 33-19 victory for the Rams. And this Rams offense is firing on all cylinders, except for Kyren Williams. Kyren did not look great, kind of his average 3.5 yards a carry, no explosiveness. And they got Blake Corum much more involved than they have in previous seasons, so that is something to keep an eye out. Kyren Williams, you might look at selling him while you can, while the iron is hot. But I think they really do want that 70-30 split, Kyren to Blake Corum, as opposed to the 90-10 that we are kind of used to. Kyren's just not having much explosiveness. As for Puka Nacua, he is an absolute dog. If we were redrafting teams at this point, I think he would honestly be the wide receiver 1 overall. He's never going to show up to a game and not be involved. He doesn't have, 3 catches on 5 target games. He is always involved in the passing game. 9 targets, 8 catches, 91 yards, and had a 45-yard rushing score in this one. Puka is awesome. He's going to provide at an extreme level. And Devontae comes home in this one, leads the team with 13 targets after coming out a little frustrated with his role in week 1, turns it into 6 for 106 and a touchdown. I still think Puka is going to be the alpha dog in this offense, kind of getting the bulk of the targets, but I think both guys will be fantasy viable. Obviously, it all predicts on Matthew Stafford staying healthy, but I'm hoping he'll do so because these two wide receivers are just awesome. As for the Tennessee side, another tough outing for Cam Ward. Suffers 5 sacks, 175, and a touchdown. That O-line is just not helping him out much at all. Tony Pollard can't get much going on the ground. Averages 4.6 a carry, so not terrible, but obviously the only guy in this backfield until Spears gets back. So Pollard's workload is awesome. Unfortunately, it's behind this terrible offensive line. As for the receiving options, IU Manor comes home 4 for 56 and a touchdown. That was a guy I told you last week to keep an eye out. If he's still on waivers, I would definitely keep an eye on grabbing him. Calvin Ridley, 3 for 57 on 6 targets. We really need to see this Tennessee offense pick up. Hopefully they have some easier matchups coming up. Definitely a brutal couple of games against Broncos and then the Rams, both teams that are expected to have solid defenses. I'm not giving up on Cam Ward yet. I think the tape looks good. We have a long history of rookies looking really, really poor, especially in their first 3 games. So I'm definitely not out on Cam Ward at this point. I think better days are ahead for this Tennessee Titans offense. And we head to one of the crazy games of the day. There was plenty of them, but the Cincinnati Bengals, Jacksonville Jaguars, a 31-27 victory for the Cincinnati Bengals, who start 2-0, but it comes at the cost of losing Joe Burrow for 3 months. Sorry to Joe Burrow drafters, you're going to have to find a replacement. Jake Browning came in, didn't look great, obviously, through the 3 picks, but got the win. Reports have been said that they are going to be looking for another quarterback. Another game where Chase Brown cannot get it going behind that offensive line, which has just not been able to push in the run game whatsoever. I'm not giving up on Chase Brown at this point, although losing Burrow definitely hurts his value. Obviously, a huge Jamar Chase game. 16 targets, turns into 14 for 165 and a touchdown. That is the Jamar Chase we expected. Big bounce back after week 1. T. Higgins comes through, 356 and a touchdown on 8 targets. I'm a little worried about T, especially now with Burrow being out. I think Jamar's going to get a lot of plays drawn up for him. And Zach Taylor's just going to tell that quarterback, throw the ball to Jamar Chase. And I think it'll come at the expense of T. Higgins a little bit. So I'm a little worried about T. If you're able to sell him, I'm sure it wouldn't be a great value. But definitely something to keep an eye out. I'm a little worried about T. Higgins moving forward. As for the Jacksonville side of things, another day of Trevor Lawrence looking ho-hum. With Brian Thomas, reports being he is scared of contact. There's definitely some concerning things watching that game back. Looks like he kind of shied away from contact a couple of times, kind of alligator-armed a catch and had a couple of drops, but he did lead the team with 12 targets, 4 for 49. We'll see if better days are ahead. I am expecting Brian Thomas to bounce back. Travis Hunter, only 3 for 22 on 6 targets. Played more defense in this one, so definitely something to keep an eye out to see what his role is moving forward, as Parker Washington led the team in receiving, and Diami Brown had another nice 5 for 57 and a touchdown. Seems like this is going to be spread out quite a bit. Britton Strange, only 3 for 17. We're looking for him to get rolling a little bit more. As for Travis Etienne, kind of dominated this backfield again, but Bashal Tutin showed signs of life and looked very explosive in his limited time. 8 carries for 42 and added a receiving touchdown as well. I think Bashal Tutin is definitely a guy to add to your bench if he is on waivers. He is a Travis Etienne injury away from being a rock-solid starter, and even with Etienne healthy, I think Tutin can provide some value to your squad. Moving on to the Ravens-Browns, a 41-17 victory for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar has an efficient passing day, 225 yards, 4 touchdowns. And outside of Zay Flowers, who got the 11 targets, the next highest was 4 targets. So Zay Flowers is obviously the go-to guy in this offense. He has an outrageous target share. He is a must-start every week. As for the rest of the receiving options, I don't think really any of them are rosterable, definitely not startable. The opportunities are just too limited for them in this offense. So Zay Flowers is the one I'm rostering and starting week in, week out. Mark Andrews really is a bust at this point. I might give him one more week on the bench, but guys I'd pick up: Jawan Johnson, Harold Fannin, Brenton Strange, Hunter Henry. All these guys I would prefer over Mark Andrews. So if they are on your waivers, definitely look into picking them up because Mark Andrews seems to be toast. As for Derrick Henry, never really got it going in this one, which is surprising. When you see 41 points for the Ravens, you expect Derrick Henry to get more than 23 yards. Obviously, he's going to bounce back relatively shortly. Only 2 carries for Lamar. Obviously, just didn't need to in this game. But for fantasy purposes, we are looking for that to increase. As far as the Cleveland side of things, unfortunately, Dylan Sampson took a massive seat back to Quinshon Judkins in his return. And Judkins looked pretty solid. So, unfortunately, Dylan Sampson, I would probably keep him on the bench at this time. But if his usage continues to dwindle, Sampson might be a drop. Jerome Ford, still droppable. If Judkins is available in your league, definitely worth a pickup. He looked very, very solid. As for the receiving options, I think they're going to continue to be valuable. Obviously not a great day for Joe Flacco, but this Baltimore Ravens defense is elite. So Judy, 4 for 51, Fannin, 5 for 48. These guys are all going to kind of bounce back, I think, even though those aren't terrible, terrible games. If you're getting a 9-point floor out of these guys, honestly, that's pretty solid. I think better days are ahead for the Cleveland receiving attack. Next game, Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, a 30-10 victory for the Buffalo Bills. And Josh Allen just really didn't have to do much, which is unfortunate for fantasy owners. Because again, when they put up 30 points like this, you're expecting huge Josh Allen stats. But it just didn't really happen because James Cook dominated this game. 21 carries, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he was clearly the best player on the field for this game. James Cook looked awesome. And with their run game domination, it came at the expense of the receiving core. Obviously a bummer game for Keon Coleman. 3 catches for 26 yards, but he did catch all of his targets, which is encouraging. Dalton Kincaid actually led the squad with 6 targets, which is a little bit surprising to see if Kincaid's usage is going to increase. But Buffalo really dominated this game on the ground, so it came at the expense of their receivers in this one. As for the New York Jets side of things, obviously this was the concern. This is their floor as an offense. Justin Fields looked putrid. 3 for 11, passing out 27 yards before he ended up leaving this game with a concussion, which obviously doesn't help Breece Hall out one bit. No room to run, 10 carries for 29 yards. Garrett Wilson had 1 catch until Tyrod Taylor came in and ended with 4 for 50. So obviously Garrett Wilson is going to continue to lead this team in targets by a mile. We just have to see how quality those targets are. Outside of him, there are no rosterable receiving options in this New York Jets offense. Much like the Steelers, there's just not going to be a lot of fantasy points scored in most weeks. Breece Hall, still rosterable, obviously. And it's going to be tough to put him on the bench, especially after what he did in week 1. But he is slowly dominating the opportunities, so I think Breece Hall will have a bounce back next week. We'll have to see if Fields is healthy to go or if it will be Tyrod Taylor. Next up, the New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, a 33-27 victory for New England. And this game was absolutely crazy. Back-to-back return touchdowns. It was off the rails. For the Patriots offense, however, TreVeyon Henderson's role is this big, which is incredibly surprising with how good he looked in preseason and during training camp. We're hopeful that his role will increase. But for now, it's the Ramondre Stevenson show. Led the team in rushing, led the team in receiving. 5 catches for 88 yards, 11 carries for 54. Ramondre dominated the snaps in this backfield, and Antonio Gibson saw an increased role. Not great for TreVeyon Henderson owners like myself. As for the receiving game, there's only 23 pass attempts in this one, so nobody really saw the fruit of the labor there. Stephon Diggs, 4 for 32. Hunter Henry, 1 catch for 9 yards. Definitely a bummer. Booty only had 1 target, but caught it for a touchdown. And Drake May ended up having 10 carries in this one. So if that really continues, that could be good for Drake May's upside. But the biggest concern is TreVeyon Henderson's usage. We have to see if this increases, and we're hopeful that it does. As for the Miami side of things, we at least saw life from their offense. Tua, 315, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Did have 5 sacks. It appears this O-line is as bad as we thought it was. Gave up 5 sacks, and Achane only averaged 2.7 yards rushing. This offensive line is going to continue to be an issue. But of course, Achane's value is in the receiving game. He had 8 for 92 and a touchdown on a team leading 10 targets. Tyreek saw 7 targets himself, 6 for 109, and Waddle 5 for 68 and a touchdown. All 3 of their main guys come home in this one. It is appearing like New England's pass defense is really something to exploit. Geno obviously had 362 yards week 1, 203.15, so we have to keep an eye on that. This New England pass defense might be something we attack from a fantasy standpoint moving forward. Next, we had the San Fran 49ers, New Orleans Saints, a 26-21 victory with backup Mac Jones doing the darn thing. 279 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Christian McCaffrey looked fantastic. At least he's carrying the workload well. 13 carries for 55 yards and added 6 for 52 and a touchdown in the receiving game, having 7 targets. This is just what Christian McCaffrey is going to do week in, week out, as long as he stays healthy, no matter who is at quarterback. As for the receivers, Juwan Jennings, 5 for 89 and a touchdown, team leading 10 targets. You absolutely love to see it. Guy who's questionable coming off the shoulder injury looked good in this one. Ricky Pearsall, a ho-hum, 4 for 56 on 6 targets. I was expecting him to be more of the alpha, but Juwan Jennings kind of retained that role, so we'll have to keep an eye if Ricky Pearsall has a bigger role moving forward. But Mac Jones looked like he's going to be a serviceable fantasy quarterback in this offense. He's not going to really kill CMC or Juwan Jennings' value in this offense. As for the New Orleans side of things, Alvin Kamara looked fantastic. 99 yards on the ground, 6 catches for 21 yards. Comes home from a PPR standpoint, absolutely. Another 10 targets for Chris Olave, which is great to see. Only turns it into 6 for 54, but we love to see this target share. Obviously, it's not a great offense that he has it in, but Chris Olave continues to get good usage. Rashid Shaheed, 4 for 52 and a touchdown. And then the big one, Jawan Johnson, 9 targets, 5 for 49 and a touchdown. And he had a couple of drops too. His numbers could have been even better. Jawan Johnson is a must pick up tight end. If he is for some reason still on your waivers, absolutely pick him up. And he is startable week in, week out. I prefer him over TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews. A lot of these guys we drafted earlier. Put your pride aside, go pick up Jawan Johnson, and you will thank me later. His role, his usage has been incredible through 2 weeks. Listen, it looks like Spencer Rattler is at least going to keep these guys alive. The real question is, how long does he keep this starting job away from Tyler Shuck? We will have to see if New Orleans starts winning any games. Spencer Rattler has yet to win a game he has started in. Next, the overtime thriller between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. A 40-37 victory for the Cowboys thanks to the right leg of Brandon Aubrey. Absolutely incredible kicking work. But it was an absolute quarterback duel in this one between Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson. Dak, 52 pass attempts, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. CeeDee Lamb, 9 for 112 on 11 targets. Absolutely love to see. CeeDee Lamb is in that top conversation as the wide receiver one moving forward with Puka Nacua, in my opinion. Jake Ferguson, a good 9 for 78 on 12 targets, which is really good to see. I was getting a little bit worried about Ferguson. Obviously, every game's not going to look like this, but it's encouraging to see his work. George Pickens, 5 for 68 and a touchdown on 9 targets. Finally came home. Took 52 pass attempts for Prescott to kind of make that happen. That's obviously not going to happen every week. So I'm a little bit worried about Pickens moving forward. If you can sell high right now, I would definitely look into that. This is going to be the CeeDee Lamb show. So George Pickens is a sell high in my opinion. Javonte Williams continues to get it done on the ground. A little bit surprising. He's got the leash on this backfield. 18 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown, and had 6 catches. So came home in a massive way for fantasy. Another guy who you could look at selling high depending if you can get good value. But if your league does not respect Javonte, honestly, I would just continue to ride him out as your RB2 and just reap the benefits of a good draft pick. On the Giants side of things, Russ coming out party, 41 attempts, turns into 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Obviously huge for Malik Neighbors, 9 for 167, 2 touchdowns. And Wan'Dale Robinson, 8 for 142 and a touchdown. Wan'Dale caught a deep ball that I didn't even know that was in his game. I thought he was only the check down merchant, But huge games for Malik Neighbors and Wandale, who are the clear-cut wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 on this squad. On the rushing side of things, not looking good for Tyrone Tracy owners. Cam Scatabo, the rookie, came in and dominated snaps and carries in this game. Had 11 for 45 and a touchdown. Added 2 carries. So it looks like they're starting to lean more on the rookie as opposed to Tyrone Tracy, who's turning more into a kick returner. So if you can sell high on Tyrone Tracy, or at least just sell him for something, I think it's something to look into. I don't think Tracy's going to have nearly as big a role in this offense as we would like. Next game, the Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, a 52-21 victory for the Detroit Lions. And this looked like the vintage Detroit Lions from last season. Even though Ben Johnson was on the other side, this looked like a classic Lions offensive game. Just about everyone came home on that side of things. Goff, 334 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 94 yards, a touchdown, added 3 receptions. David Montgomery scored. Amon-Ra, 9 for 115, 3 touchdowns. Obviously a huge boom game. Jameson Williams, 2 for 108 and a touchdown, only on 4 targets. And that is something to note. His role continues to be the same, only a big play guy. If you can sell high on Jameson Williams, I think it is something to look into. I think he's going to have more 3 for 23 games than this 2 for 108 and a touchdown. Definitely would look into selling high on Jameson Williams. But with that being said, every Detroit Lion that you were playing in fantasy came home this week. On the flip side of things, Caleb Williams, tough game, 19 for 30, 207, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. DeAndre Swift still led this team in carries, 12 for 63 and a touchdown. Did have a fumble, did bang up his shoulder a little bit, so that'll be something to look into. Although there's not really a good backup running back pushing him for snaps. Rome Odunze was the lone bright spot of this Chicago passing offense, 7 for 128 and 2 touchdowns. He was looking like the alpha dog on this Chicago Bears team. DJ Moore, kind of more of a short line of scrimmage guy, 5 for 46. But on a more worrisome note, Colston Loveland appears to be dead. 1 target, 0 catches. Cole Kmet is out playing him, out snapping him, out targeting him, out everythinging him, which is crazy. Why would you spend a top 10 pick on a guy like Colston Loveland just for him to not play? Don't understand it, but this is where we're at. Colston Loveland is droppable at this point if you need the roster spot. I do not blame you one bit. A little bit of worry in Chicago. We'll see if they can bounce back next week. And finally, we move to the afternoon slate of the Sunday games. A 29-28 victory for the Colts over the Broncos. Should have been a Broncos victory, but they did a boneheaded move at the end, and then a second field goal attempt allowed the Colts to move to 2-0 on the back of Daniel Jones, who was reincarnated, 316 passing yards and a touchdown, as well as a rushing touchdown. Looked great again against a good Broncos defense. Daniel Jones, definitely a rosterable quarterback and potentially startable depending on the matchup. Jonathan Taylor looked excellent on the ground, 165 yards. Did get a receiving score as well. So big day for Jonathan Taylor. Again, Tyler Warren, great usage, 7 targets, 4 for 79. A little bit of a relief for Josh Downs owners. Led the team with 8 targets, 6 catches for 51 yards. So he's not dead yet. Definitely keeping Josh Downs on your squad. Off of talent alone, this guy's definitely rosterable. And if we continue to see this usage, he is a startable fantasy player. As for the ancillary guys, Pittman, Pierce, both mediocre days. And that's going to be the case in this Colts offense. There are a lot of mouths to feed, so it's definitely going to fluctuate who has the very solid games outside of Tyler Warren, who looks to be a stud and a mainstay in this offense. On the Denver side of things, to be honest, another mid game out of Bo Nix, who has yet to look like he looked in his rookie season, perhaps a little sophomore year regression. And that came at the expense as Cortland Sutton as well, who only had 1 catch for 6 yards on 4 targets. Obviously not good. The game plan was clearly get the ball to Troy Franklin in this game, who had 9 targets, 8 for 89 and a touchdown. And he is the clear-cut wide receiver 2 on this Denver team, and he is a must-roster guy. If Troy Franklin is on your waivers, I recommend picking him up absolutely as the wide receiver 2 across from Cortland Sutton. If he can continue to get this usage, it is going to be very solid for Troy Franklin. On the ground, J.K. Dobbins dominated, 14 for 76 and a touchdown. R.J. Harvey, not a very great game. Still holding on to R.J. Harvey with the hopes that he breaks out, potentially a J.K. Dobbins injury. Definitely hold on to Harvey, but Dobbins has a stranglehold on this backfield for the meantime. Also, Evan Ingram looks to be an afterthought in this offense, unfortunately. So if there are better options on the wire, like I mentioned, Fan and Juwan Johnson, those type of guys, I would definitely drop Evan Ingram in favor of those guys. Looking like Ingram is not a big part of this offense so far. The next game, a 27-22 victory for the Arizona Cardinals over the Carolina Panthers. And this was not a clean, pretty game by Arizona by any stretch of the imagination, but they get the job done. Trey McBride, 6 for 78, leads the team with 7 targets. There was only 25 pass attempts by Arizona in this game, so Marv obviously took a back seat, 2 for 27, and unfortunately this is what we've kind of grown to be accustomed to from Marv, are these floor games. Only had 5 targets, had a drop, so Marv is definitely a tough guy, looking like it's going to be the same usage as last season, at least so far. So Marv's kind of a guy I'm just holding on to right now. You can't really sell high because he didn't have a great game. It's tough looking for Marv Harrison. It's going to be the guy that you start on his bad weeks and you sit on his good weeks. It's just going to be a tough time for Marv owners. James Conner did not look great in this one. 11 carries, 34 yards, and a touchdown. And he is definitely giving up some work to Trey Benson, especially on kind of 2-minute drill passing type stuff. Trey Benson's definitely getting some more burn this year. So Conner, I'm a little worried about Conner's usage. I don't think they want him to be that 20-25 carry a game guy this season. So definitely a little bit of a development there. Trey Benson, definitely rosterable, a premium handcuff. And then Kyler, this is kind of what you get out of Kyler. Just nothing special. Obviously, he had some special plays running. We all seen that clip of him doing his loop-de-loo and getting a 30-yard carry, but it's kind of the mediocre, inconsistent play out of Kyler Murray. As for the Carolina side of things, Tedoroa McMillan is an absolute dog. Led the team 10 targets, 6 for 100. He's going to be a guy you can comfortably throw into your starting lineup despite the bad Carolina offense. Bryce Young definitely wants to feed Tedoroa McMillan. JT Sanders, 7 for 54 on 9 targets. And even Hunter Renfrow had 2 touchdowns in this game, although I'm not really looking to roster Hunter Renfrow. Good for him. Jatavian Sanders, definitely more of a deep cut. If you have injuries to tight ends and it's maybe a deeper league, Jatavian Sanders is pick-upable, but not every game is going to look this way. On the ground, Chuba Hubbard had a tough time getting things going, 10 for 38. Did have 5 catches and a receiving touchdown, so came home fantasy-wise. And none of the other running backs like Rico Dowdle are looking too good. So Chuba should continue to get this workload. It's just still not a great offensive line, so there's not a ton of holes for Chuba to run through, unfortunately. And the final afternoon game, the Super Bowl rematch, was a 20-17 victory for the Eagles, who win in the rematch. Unfortunately, this Philly passing offense is as low volume as it gets, which was always the worry. Like I said last week, we were worried about this last year. What changes this year? Nothing. 22 pass attempts for Hurts, only 101 passing yards. He does get a rushing score, which helps his fantasy numbers out, but still not a great day. Saquon gets 22 carries in this one, turns it into 88 yards and a touchdown. The good thing to see, though, is Devontae and A.J. Brown were the top 2 target getters with 6 and 8 respectively. So I think there are definitely better days ahead, especially for A.J. Brown. 5 for 27 is about as low as the bar gets on 8 targets. So I think A.J. Brown could be a buy low option if the A.J. Brown owner in your league is wanting to get off of him and not happy with his usage. I would definitely look into buying A.J. Brown low, although you do run the risk of this 22 pass attempts a game really continuing. On the flip side, this Kansas City Chiefs offense is in desperate need of Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy coming back. They just did not look good. Patrick Mahomes just running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Turned it into 7 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. So it kind of came home fantasy-wise. But the running backs cannot get anything going. Kareem Hunt, 8 for 31. Pacheco, 10 for 22. These Kansas City Chiefs running backs, although you kind of have to roster them, are just never going to be a comfortable start in your lineup. As for receiving options, Travis Kelce, 4 for 61, and you expect him to have a role with all these guys out. Hollywood Brown, only 5 for 30, who had a lot of hype and a lot of buzz, was dealing with an ankle injury, kind of hobbling in and out of the lineup. So just not great fantasy-wise from the Kansas City Chiefs. They need Rashi back. They need Xavier back in a bad, bad way. This offense is just stagnant without the top 2 playmakers. And this big day of huge, electric, high-scoring games all came down to Sunday night, which was an absolute snoozer. 22-6 victory for Atlanta Falcons over the Vikings. And the star of the show was Bijan Robinson and this Falcons running game. 22 carries, 143 yards. Even Tyler Algier had 16 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. So you hate to see that for a Bijan owner, Algier taking that much, but they were just absolutely dominating on the ground. And Bijan is just an absolute stud, man. He is so fun to watch. Added 3 receptions for 25 yards. Drake London only had 4 targets in this one, but really they just did not need to pass the ball. As you can see, Penix only had 21 pass attempts. So Drake London, better things ahead. Honestly, it was probably good. He got to rest his shoulder a little bit, only needing 3 catches for 49 yards. Another encouraging game for Kyle Pitts, even though it was only 4 for 37. His usage and his target share, definitely encouraging moving forward. I think Pitts is rosterable as a backup tight end or even a starter. Darnell Mooney, 2 for 20 in his return. I expect obviously more volume from this passing attack moving forward, but just dominated on the ground by Bijan. Love to see it if you're a Bijan owner. On the flip side, JJ McCarthy, huge step of regression from week 1. Did not look great. Only completed 11 passes, 2 interceptions. Justin Jefferson, 3 for 81 on 6 targets. Obviously had the huge 50-yarder at the end of the first half, which obviously saved his fantasy day. But Aaron Jones did leave this one with a hamstring injury. That'll be very interesting to see. Jordan Mason looked pretty solid in this one. So if Aaron Jones is out for any amount of time, Jordan Mason is definitely a startable running back for your fantasy squad. Hopefully this Vikings offense turns it around. JJ McCarthy hopefully looks better next week. It was just a poor showing from them. Atlanta Falcons defense was getting pressure all night long. 6 sacks. Vikings offensive line was in shambles. And we'll move on to the doubleheader on Monday night. And the first game of the doubleheader was a 20-19 victory for the Tampa Bay Bucks over the Houston Texans. Baker Mayfield leads the game-winning drive. Looks good in the process. Does get a little banged up in this one. We'll have to see how he is feeling and what the practice reports say to see if he will play next week. I'm sure he will. He is obviously a tough guy. Bucky Irving looks great on the ground, gets 71 yards, no touchdown, however, does get 6 catches for 50 yards, so a very solid fantasy day out of Bucky Irving. And Rachaad White honestly had a very solid day, 65 yards and a touchdown in his own right, so very solid day for both running backs. As for the receivers, Emeka Egbuka was involved early, got the early touchdown, but did perhaps get a little banged up. A lower body injury. We'll have to see. He did play throughout the rest of the game, but just didn't look the same. So we'll have to see what his status is, but came through again, fantasy-wise. And then Mike Evans led the team, 11 targets, 5 for 56. He was shadowed by Derek Stingley most of the night. His matchups will be much easier moving forward. He will not have to go against Derek Stingley every single week, so I'm very much looking forward to that. As a Mike Evans owner, I think better days are ahead for him. This Tampa Bay Bucks team continues to churn out valuable fantasy assets. As for the Texans side of things, it is a little dark and grim as far as their production. Nico Collins leads the squad with 9 targets, 3 for 52 and a touchdown. And unfortunately, there's no other rosterable receiving options. They're trying to get guys like Xavier Hutchinson, Justin Watson reps when there's rookies like Jaden Higgins that look better, at least to the untrained eye. But so there's no relevant receivers outside of Nico Collins. And then on the ground, Nick Chubb kind of continues to get it done with the 25-yard touchdown run, 43 yards in total. Woody Marks looked pretty decent in this one, the 4th-round rookie. I expect him to start slowly eating into Nick Chubb's work. Nick Chubb just doesn't look explosive. So it's kind of a desperate RB2 if need be. But really no pieces of this Houston team outside of Nico Collins that I'm very excited about. And even Nico Collins is a little worrisome at this point. All right, and then all transparency, it is currently the halftime of the Chargers-Raiders game, but I am not going to stay up much longer. It is 17-6, Chargers at half. Chargers are really airing out the ball. Mr. Herbert connected on a deep 60-yard touchdown to Quentin Johnston, who looks very, very solid still. Keenan Allen also has his touchdown reception, and Ladd is 3 for 30. It's going to continue to be this three-headed monster. As far as the rushing game, Marion Hampton only has 4 carries, but has 22 yards and has looked pretty solid. So hopefully his workload increases in the second half, and I will have good things to report by tomorrow. On the Raiders side of things, couple of picks out of Geno Smith, not looking great. Ashton Genty slowly starting to turn it up, finding some creases, has 7 carries for 30 yards. Hopefully he can turn it up in the second half as well. On the receiving side of things, kind of a tough go of things. Jacoby Myers has 1 for 25. I'm expecting quite a lot of pass attempts out of this Raiders team in the second half, so we'll have to see if it turns into fantasy production. Not much out of Brock Bowers so far. It appears he is definitely limited by that knee in play. So we will see if he gets much run in the second half. Alrighty, and that is going to do it for the week 2 recap. If you found this video helpful, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Hit that like button while you're down there. I really appreciate the support from you guys. We'll catch you on the next one on Saturday, where we look ahead to week 3 and do some start-sit decisions. If you have any start-sit decisions for upcoming week 3, you feel free to drop them in the comments. I will be happy to answer those questions. Appreciate the support. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.